Welcome, traveler. You have entered Thebes in the 13th century BCE, where you serve as a temple scribe, shaping words for gods and kings. You wake before the sun, as you always do. The stone of your chamber still holds the coolness of night, and outside, the wind from the desert slips through the shutters, stirring the edge of a linen curtain. You lie for a moment, letting your breath slow into rhythm with the hush of the city just before it stirs. Thebes sleeps lightly. Somewhere down the slope, a potter yawns over his kiln. A vendor arranges dried dates in silence. But up here, near the precinct walls of the temple, the world still feels paused. Sacred. You rise and wrap your robe about you, simple and unmarked. Today, like every day, you will write. In the storeroom beside your quarters, your tools wait patiently. Your reeds, trimmed and dried from the marshes near the river. Your palettes with their hollowed cups of red and black pigment. A stack of rolled papyrus sheets, crisp and smooth and smelling faintly of silt. You gather them with practiced ease, slipping into the rhythm that has become as familiar as your own breath. The corridor leading to the scriptorium is lit by early light, long, golden shafts of morning filtering in through high, narrow slits in the wall. The sandstone under your feet is cool and worn smooth from centuries of quiet steps like yours. You pass painted murals, gods frozen in gesture, their colors still bright where sunlight hasn't faded them. You nod slightly to Thoth, the ibis-headed keeper of wisdom, whose gaze always seems to follow scribes like you. You were not born into words. Your father was a brewer, your mother a weaver of fine linen for temple rituals. But the temple school saw something in you. Your quiet manner, your care with numbers and letters, your reverence for rules and order. You were sent to learn, and learn you did. Now, years later, your hands are steady, and your brush is sure. You carry the language of kings and gods. In the scriptorium, others have already arrived. A low murmur of greetings passes among you, fellow scribes, all bent to their work, each with a task. One copies royal decrees. Another transcribes a funerary hymn onto papyrus to be placed within a nobleman's tomb. A third carves into limestone, every stroke deliberate, final. You take your seat on a woven mat and unroll your first scroll. Today's assignment: a set of prayers for the morning ritual of Amun-Ra, written in beautiful, formal hieroglyphs. These will be read aloud by the priests as they pour libations and offer incense. Your writing must be perfect. The gods read with their ears. You mix your inks, black from soot, red from ochre, and dip your reed brush into the first well. The reed's tip is soft, almost like a hair, and it spreads the ink in smooth, deliberate lines. You begin with the sign for glory, its form etched in your mind, drawn in a single motion. Then the sign for dawn, then offering. There is something deeply calming in the repetition, in the way your whole self must quiet to focus. The world narrows to the papyrus before you, the ink, the brush. You do not rush. There is no urgency here. The pace is that of stone and sun. Around you, others dip and write, the scriptorium filling with the soft sounds of scratching reeds and murmured phrasing. A novice to your left whispers as he writes, lips shaping each word. You remember being like that, needing to speak the glyphs aloud to hold their shape in your mind. But now your hands remember what your voice no longer needs to say. Time passes unnoticed. A servant brings bread and figs, which you eat slowly, watching the light climb higher through the slits in the walls. Dust dances in the beams, golden and weightless. By mid-morning, the air grows warmer. Outside, the temple is waking fully. The ringing of bronze bowls, the low chanting of priests as they anoint statues and stoke incense burners. You can smell the myrrh drifting in, a sacred fragrance. It reminds you of the great festivals, when the streets bloom with song and smoke, and even scribes step outside the shade of their work to watch the gods parade by in gilded barges. But today is a quiet day, a day for ink and prayer. You pause only once to stretch your fingers, then return to the scroll. Each line brings the piece closer to completion. When you finally lay down your reed and blow gently to dry the last symbols, You feel the small but satisfying piece of work well done. You set the scroll aside, careful not to smudge it. Another scribe will check it later, ensuring each glyph is correct, every space aligned. And if it passes inspection, it will travel to the inner sanctum of the temple, where it will be read beneath columns shaped like papyrus reeds, in a hall echoing with the footfalls of the gods. You lean back for a moment. Your shoulders ache slightly, but it's a good ache, the kind that means you've done what you were meant to do. After the prayers are written and reviewed, and the scrolls are sent down the corridor to the temple keepers, your hand is allowed rest. The light beyond the columns now gleams hot and white, reflected off the limestone courts. Thebes is in full motion, but here within the shaded halls of the temple, the day moves slowly, carefully, as though time itself bows beneath the weight of eternity. You carry your tools to the basin and rinse them in silence. The red ink clouds the water briefly, like blood and milk, before swirling away. You dry the reeds with a clean cloth, laying them carefully to rest, their ends trimmed just so. Today, you've been invited to assist with a tomb inscription. Not to carve, no, that work belongs to the stonecutters, but to lay out the design. To draw the glyphs with your ink in perfect alignment across the limestone slabs before the chisels begin their patient labor. You're honored. The tomb belongs to a temple priest, an old man with a voice like sand and a gaze like the Nile in flood, slow and unstoppable. He served Amun for over 40 years, and now the gods must remember him. You step outside, blinking in the light. The sun wraps the temple like a cloak. The scent of warm stone and distant honey cakes drifts through the air. A procession moves slowly across the avenue of sphinxes, women balancing jugs of beer and baskets of lotus on their heads. Priests chant under their breath, their voices low as river reeds. You walk the path east toward the necropolis. As you go, you pass homes with open courtyards, children chasing goats, old men dozing under awnings. The city is alive but never hurried. There's always time in Thebes. The tomb is half finished, its entry shaded by scaffolding and stacked blocks. A young overseer greets you with a nod and hands you a chalked string for marking lines. Inside, the stone is cool again, the silence deep. You feel the temperature shift on your skin, smell the fine dust of fresh chiseling. A smooth wall awaits your hand. You sit on a cushion and unwrap your bundle. Ink, reed, palette. The stone has been polished. Your brush must not falter. These are words meant to last not days or months, but centuries, carried through the underworld, read by gods and ancestors alike. Here, you will write the priest's name, his titles, his virtues, the hymns he whispered in the temple before dawn, the blessings he offers to the earth and the sky. You begin again. The ink spreads differently on stone. There is a drag, a slight catch. You adjust your hand and breathe with each stroke. Above you, an apprentice holds a torch, its flame flickering as it mixes with the light spilling through the door. A beetle crawls along the wall, oblivious to your task. Glyph by glyph, the story forms. You don't speak as you work. The apprentice does not ask questions. There is only the sound of ink on stone and your own heartbeat. It feels like prayer, this slow translation of memory into symbol, of life into language. You wonder sometimes if this is how the gods remember us, not with voices or faces, but with marks in stone. You finish the first section by midday. The apprentice exhales quietly, as if he'd been holding his breath. You rise, stretch, and pack your tools. Later, a cutter will follow your work with a fine chisel, carving the shapes with reverent care. And long after both of you are dust, those signs may remain, if not in a grand hall, then buried in sand, waiting. Back outside, the air feels brighter. You take a long breath and begin the walk back toward the temple, your feet leaving soft prints in the dust. The sun is higher now, but the breeze off the river brings relief. You pause once, in the shade of a fig tree, to eat a handful of dried dates from your pouch. They are sweet, almost floral, and they stick to your fingers. You don't rush. The afternoon is still yours. As you near the temple again, you hear the clatter of tools, the call of hawkers, the deep, steady rhythm of life continuing around you. This city is ancient, but never still. Every person, every stone, plays a part in the vast story of gods and men. And you, with your quiet hands and your careful words, help write that story, one line at a time.